Boys, welcome back to another video. Today is not just any other video though. Today I'm starting a new series called Comics I Read This Week, where, you guessed it, I talk about comics that I read this week. So I thought this would be a really fun, cool idea just because I already read a decent amount of comics, which won't be the case for this video actually. But I love comic books and I want to talk about them more and I want to bring it more into this channel. So I wanted to make this video and start this series to tell you guys what I'm reading. Now, like I said, unfortunately this one isn't going to be the best one, but that's okay because this is the first episode. I also want to provide you guys with the scale that I will be using in detail. So if anybody ever asks for the in detail scale, they can come back to this video and just kind of explain the series as a whole. So there's not as many comics this time around. I think I only read about 8, but I've been busy, okay? We've been grinding other content for you guys. We got a bunch of other videos, but that's neither here nor there. So like I said, it's a pretty simple, pretty straightforward concept. I will come to you guys every week on the same day and be giving you every comic that I read that week. This is not going to be a comics explained. So like, for example, I'm not going to come on here and give you a detailed summary of everything that happened. I'm literally just going to come on here every single week, give you a list of the comics I read, along with a rating. For each one, I will provide a very brief summary just so you guys kind of can tag along and get a gist of a story. And then I would like to do a comic of the week award as well as art of the week. Obviously these are pretty self-explanatory. Comic of the week is going to the best comic that I read that week, or what I think is the best comic I read that week. And then art of the week is obviously going to go to the comic that I think had the best art of the week. But for starters, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my in-depth, detailed version of my grading scale. At its core, this is just a 1 through 10 scale. It's nothing special. It's not game changing, but it's not 1 through 10 in a normal sense. You know, usually you have a 1 through 10 and 7 is passing. No. This is going to be different. So for this first episode, I am going to give you guys an in-depth look at it. So going forward, you kind of know what the grade means. Starting at the bottom, we have number 1. This is the pathetic rating. This basically means it is nearly unreadable. The art is poor. The story is worse. And finishing it felt like a chore. This is nothing redeeming. This is a comic that I probably couldn't finish. You know what I mean? So that's a 1. It's probably never going to get there, but you know. 2 is going to be abysmal, a struggle to get through. The art is subpar, the writing doesn't hold up, and the plot feels pointless or frustrating. 3 is just weak. It's below average, the story and the art are barely passable, but overall it's forgettable and not something you'd recommend or revisit. Mundane is completely average. Solid, but uninspired art and storytelling. It's serviceable, but nothing stands out. At number 5 is decent. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a decent read. The art and the story work well, though it's probably not going to leave a lasting impression, but it's still enjoyable. At number 6 is formidable. It's a fun read with no issues. It flows well, it entertains, and delivers what you'd expect from a quality comic. Sitting at 7 is fantastic. Something here stands out. Whether it's a panel, a clever twist, or just strong story or character work, this is definitely worth checking out. At number 8 is incredible. Strong on both the story and the art end. The narrative is engaging, the visuals pop, and it was a joy to read from start to finish. Number 9 is amazing. Like Spider-Man. This is top tier comic book work. It's excellent writing, it's stellar art, it's memorable moments, great characters. It is a near perfect package. And at number 10 is going to be one above all. This is a rare rating. It is flawless. It is a masterpiece in both storytelling and visuals. Everything works, and it is a comic you'd immediately both recommend and reread. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the meat. I will be giving you guys the 8 comics I read. Now I understand 8 is not a lot of comics, but like I said, I've been busy. Okay, I promise in the future there's going to be much more comics read per week, but for now we're starting slow, we're starting low, and we're starting with Amazing Spider-Man number 62 from 1968. It's a pretty simple, pretty standard Spider-Man comic, but this one does involve, at this point we're getting involved with a lot of other characters and a lot of other storylines. So it basically starts off with Spider-Man swinging around the city, and he literally runs into Medusa as she's visiting the city to kind of scout out humans for Inhumans and see if they're capable of living with one another. But as she's doing this, a kind of hair salesman runs into her and he says he wants to use her for an ad. She agrees, thinking it'll be good to, you know, explore how humans work. She is then framed as she doesn't like them. She kind of leaves, and in return they tell Spider-Man, hey, she's bad, she's attacking us. And so her and Spider-Man get into a fight. As the fight draws to a close, Spider-Man she kind of reveals to Spider-Man, hey, I didn't attack him. And he says, well, they said you attacked him. Long story short, they figure it out, and it ends with the hair salesman kind of getting his due. Nothing really crazy. There's not a real villain in this story. Along with this, we get sort of the Amazing Spider-Man through lines that were happening in the comic around the time. You have Norman Osborn had amnesia and forgot he was Green Goblin, but now he's remembering. Gwen and Peter at this point aren't on the best of terms, yada yada yada, that sort of stuff. Overall though, for the first comic ever on the Comics I Read This Week series, we're going to be giving it a 5 out of 10. It was fine, you know, it was decent. It wasn't anything special. Didn't really have a villain, but it was fine. Up next on the list is going to be Amazing Spider-Man number 63, Wings in the Night. This is what Spider-Man is all about. This is a simple comic in which Vulture, who we previously thought was dead, comes back, grabs his original wings, goes and tries to get revenge on Blackie Drago for trying to impersonate him. We learn that he does this simply for the fact that he wants to beat him and prove that he's the better Vulture. In doing so, he obviously starts a flying Vulture fight over the city, to which Peter Parker has to take pictures of. He sees that a kid is hanging off a ledge, obviously turns into Spider-Man, saves the kid, and hurts his arm in the process. This one was pretty good. Again, typical Spidey stuff. You love to see it, but overall I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Up next is going to be Amazing Spider-Man number 64, which is The Vulture's Prey. This obviously picks up right where we left off. The Vulture has beaten Blackie Drago, and Spider-Man is now in the fight trying to take down the original Vulture. As this happens, you know, a fight ensues, they go hand to hand, and as this is happening, a crowd kind of forms below them with pretty much every Spider-Man character you can think of. Gwen Stacy is there, Captain Stacy, Betty Brant, Ned Leeds, J. Jonah's on the rooftop. All of these things are happening as they're fighting, and Spider-Man is kind of fighting with a hurt arm. But by the end of the fight, Vulture kind of knocks him off a building, he lands on the ground, Vulture flies off, and at this point Spider-Man is unconscious, surrounded by the public. Again, typical Spidey stuff. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Before I go any further, I do want to mention that these comics are not random. A lot of the comics that are going to be on this list for the foreseeable future are from the comicbookreadingorders.com Marvel chronological full timeline. I think they call it the Master Reading Order. So these aren't random. I'm not just randomly picking out Spider-Man comics and what will be Fantastic Four comics. If you do have suggestions, please leave them in the comments. If there's comics you really want to see me rate or read, I will be glad to do so. That's a fun thing to do. But yeah, I should have prefaced before, these are not random comics. These are comics that are, I'm reading them for a reason. I'm trying to read this Master Reading Order. Every now and then you'll see me throw something in kind of random. I'm reading the Ultimates right now, so we'll probably see that, stuff like that. But for the most part, it is going to be that Master Reading Order. But up next on said reading order is going to be Amazing Spider-Man 65, The Impossible Escape. So at this point, Spider-Man is knocked out on the ground, and the public as a whole wants to unmask him and kind of figure out who he is. Captain Stacy does not let that happen, and in turn, he's kind of rushed to not a hospital, but he's put in the infirmary in a jail. But as this is happening, Captain Stacy gets hailed as a hostage by other prisoners, and Spider-Man basically has to fight his way into saving Captain Stacy and redeeming his name with a trustworthy person in Captain Stacy and escape from the jail, as he does not want to stay there and get tried as a vigilante or anything like that. Overall, it was a fun change of pace, but nonetheless, I am still going to be giving that one a 6 out of 10. Next up is going to be Fantastic Four number 74. This one was fun. We got back to these kind of Galactus, Silver Surfer comics. In this one, Silver Surfer at this point has been kind of exiled by Galactus. He's stuck on Earth, and then he tells them that Galactus is back. So Silver Surfer comes and warns the Fantastic Four as he actually heads into the Microverse, and Galactus sends the Punisher, not that Punisher, not Frank Castle. He sends the Punisher, which is actually kind of an android that he disperses to kind of do dirty work. Not necessarily a herald, but literally just a robot for him to use. Also at this point, Sue Storm is pregnant, so they're trying to kind of keep her calm and keep her well rested and out of danger. So she kind of has to sit back without knowing that any of this is happening, while Crystal hangs out with her, and the Fantastic Four basically take on the Punisher and kind of beat him, but also kind of not. They basically fight to a standstill. The Silver Surfer ends up in the microverse, and the Punisher kind of dissipates as Galactus calls him back. By the end of the comic, we learn that Galactus is only doing this because he wants the Silver Surfer back, and the Silver Surfer does not want to help Galactus anymore. Overall, this is a pretty fun one. This is going to be the first ever on the list that is a 7 out of 10. I just love that Lee and Kirby stuff, especially when it involves Galactus, Silver Surfer. Overall, the Fantastic Four comics are just gas, so 7 out of 10. Next up, though, is Fantastic Four number 75. Obviously, we pick up right where we left off, except this time, instead of the Punisher, Galactus basically sends down these carbon copies of the Thing, Reed Richards, and Johnny Storm to fight. In the process, they pretty much defeat them, but at this time, Galactus threatens Earth with these sort of illusions similar to when he first came to Earth, and Reed basically tells him through mental waves or something that, hey, don't attack Earth, we'll get Silver Surfer back, we promise. Obviously, at this time, we then see Silver Surfer is officially in the microverse, leading them to the next issue. But for now, I'm giving Fantastic Four number 75 another 7 out of 10. Immediately following in the next issue, Fantastic Four number 76, we obviously see the Fantastic Four journey into the microverse in search of Silver Surfer. Once they get there, though, they kind of have a little bit of a scuffle. Silver Surfer is kind of reluctant. He's like, no, I don't want to go with you. I'm free down here. He's actually really, really excited to be down there. It's a new, vast, expansive universe for him to explore. And at the same time, they learn that none other than the Psycho Man himself has returned to the microverse, and he kind of causes trouble for them. Similar to Galactus, he sends out a robot to fight them, which they kind of struggle, but inevitably defeat with the help of the Silver Surfer, who then agrees, hey, you know what, maybe you're right, maybe I should go back, I don't want a bunch of people to die and all that. Another really fun one, and another 7 out of 10. But finally, for this video, we're going to finish off with Fantastic Four number 77, Shall Earth Endure. This one is all about the Fantastic Four fighting Psycho Man and trying to kind of defeat him, while the Silver Surfer agrees to, hey, you know, I'll go solve the Galactus problem, I'll meet up with him, and we'll figure it out. So simultaneously, you've got two storylines of the Fantastic Four fighting Psycho Man, or Psycho Man droids, or mirages, or whatever they may be, and Silver Surfer making his way to Galactus and saying, please don't eat Earth, I will find you another planet, just don't eat Earth. And of course, by the end, Psycho Man is defeated, and Silver Surfer saves the day. But this is also the start of the Silver Surfer solo journey. Around this time in real life is where he started to get his solo comic, which we'll explore in the next episode. But because this was kind of a rough finish, and it was one of those stories that isn't really all the way through, and Psycho Man was kind of defeated with a little bit of whatever, this comic is going to be getting a 6 out of 10. Along with this, though, we do have to do the Art of the Week award as well as the Comic of the Week award, both of which are going to be going to that Fantastic Four number 75. This was one of the more fun stories that I got to read this week, and the art, you cannot defeat that Fantastic Four Jack Kirby art, especially when you're going into different, you know, cosmic spaces and universes and the microverse, all that stuff. He is a genius when it comes to that sort of art. It's just fun, and it's quirky, and it's different, and it's unique. So definitely going to be giving it to that, as well as the Fantastic Four, but also Galactus, Silver Surfer. The way he draws them, they just look so classic and so good. So the art has to go to that Jack Kirby number 75 Fantastic Four, as well as the story from Stan Lee. But there you have it. That is the first episode ever of Comics I Read This Week. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. Let me know in the comments what comics you want me to read or to see or to check out. I will be glad to do so. I intend to do this, like I said, it's Comics I Read This Week. I intend to do this every week. It was really fun to make. I get to read comics and then talk about them. So let me know if you guys enjoyed it by hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.